Good morning, dearest one. I'm not entirely sure that you are getting these films, actually. In part, it is a form of mental discipline for myself. There are some films I would make just because I have a sort of need almost to speak about things that interest me, trouble me, whatever. And if one speaks, then you have to try and make sense of whatever the thought is. And as I say, I'm most comfortable with speaking rather than writing or drawing or creating in any other way. My best form of communicating is through speaking. So, I hope you're having a lovely time with your family. I don't know how long you've lived in the big town. It's not so big, really. Nizhny-Kamsk, isn't it? I was thinking of going to Heathrow Airport today. Just to see, there's a bus that comes from here, the number 724. Just for a day's outing, really. But I'm not sure if we can travel yet, unless you have the right permission, as it were. I think it might be next week, so maybe I won't go today. But just to check out, well, it's a day out for me. I mean, I used to do this. There are at least 3 airports I can go to. There's Heathrow, there's the local one to here, Luton, and then there's another one called Gatwick. And it just gets me out of town and, out of this smaller town and into a sort of more international environment. We'll have to have a little pigsty for your pigs, won't we? The trouble is, and I absolutely have this problem, I couldn't possibly eat my pet pig. Now, from a farming background, it is inevitable that if you have livestock, they're there milking cows, but even milking cows means little boy calves that you have to do something with at some point. Fatten them up and eat them, or just slaughter them young. So I'm afraid it's a hard old business, farming. And any animals I have would become my friends. I couldn't eat them, could I? So, sheep, you see, you can have, you've got the wool. And there's no money in wool anyway, actually. I'm not so fond of sheep, really, to be honest. And horses, I mean, just the very idea of eating one's own horse is just help. So even ducks and chickens. Chickens are handy because you get the eggs, don't you? geese and so on. Geese are good guard creatures. If anyone comes onto your land, they will let the world know in no uncertain terms. You never know with me. It is possible that I will have, the place I'm living in now is through the government because of my circumstances. But it is possible that I will have a proper place of my own again, and where one can do as you like, really. I'd love to have a pond, for instance. a nice biggish pond with ducks and fish and, I don't know, wildlife, all the little creatures. And be able to plant my own trees and all that sort of thing. Possibly it's nice if there's a river nearby. In fact, there's another lovely thing to have flowing through one's land. It's up to God. I do not have the resources to buy that sort of place, so it would have to be a philanthropic gesture on someone's part. But I've had this idea, I think I've sent it to you, of a place with some land, and it would be a Christian place, and I'd want it to welcome people. And the Benedictine tradition is welcoming, especially the Benedictine tradition. They always, and Jewish actually, tradition is you always set one extra place at least, but for that possible guest who may just, a stranger who may just come by. So you always think of the stranger at your door. So I did watch a bit of your film, or the trailer for it. Hopelessly romantic. Boy meets girl, and they sail off into the sunset. Yes. There's a classic novel, English novel, whose name I can't think of just at the moment, but the man is blinded, and then the woman was his housekeeper or something, and they fall in love. Jane Eyre, it's called, Jane Eyre. Yeah. So I'm still puzzled as to how you found me through the internet, but I don't know. I certainly haven't been looking at all. I won't. I've probably said this already, but I've more or less come to the way of thinking that it's up to God. I believe he brought me together with my former wife, and all that then flowed with my son and all the rest of it, our child, and so on, was all meant to be somehow. But at this, my time of life, I absolutely just would prefer to be alone, quite frankly. I'm used to being alone. I've taught myself to be alone. I can get on with my life and function reasonably well, and try to find God's will for me alone. But my nature is not that. My nature is to be gloriously, joyously, happily married with lots of little people. Lots and lots. You've got to start with one, of course. First, find a beautiful young lady. Well, it would appear you may have found me somehow. So there we are. Who knows? I don't think we're doing any harm to anyone, either to ourselves or to the world. We're both adults. So I don't have any concerns on that front. I do have a big concern about the age difference. And that is entirely up to you to come to your own conclusions about that. But if you're interested, then we must meet, obviously. So the practicalities are, there's Aeroflot from Kazan to Moscow, Moscow to Heathrow. The world's still on this lockdown thing. I don't think there are any flights, Aeroflot, until August. Just for ordinary people to travel in an ordinary way, and it's still difficult in England. I think we're coming out of what they call lockdown next week to some extent. But it's not a normal society anymore. So a lot less, fewer people around, motor cars and all the rest of it, and travelling on the trains and everything. It's much, much reduced. And as an older man, I don't think it would be very helpful for me to get this coronavirus either. I haven't spoken about it, but I have medical conditions too. There we are. Yes, one thinks of the other person often during the day. So there we are. Have a lovely day. Cheerio.